As I mentioned at the start of Mass today, we celebrate the feast of Christ the King. Notice that a lot of people don't normally refer to Jesus that way, Jesus as Christ the King. It's not how we normally think of him. We normally think of him as Jesus our Savior, our Redeemer, our friend. Jesus as teacher. Jesus as servant, the one who comes to save me, to lay down his life for me. And so this idea of Jesus as king can sometimes seem very foreign to us, very strange to us. And also as a priest, I've noticed for some people, the idea of Christ as king can also be a bit scary. Because if Jesus is the king, well, that means then we're the servants. That means he's in charge and has control over my life, not me. And that scares a lot of people. I do a lot of spiritual direction with people, and that's usually where a lot of fears settle around. Well, what's he going to ask of me? What is he going to want me to do? What if he wants something that I don't want? It's this idea of Christ as king, Christ as Lord, Christ as master can sometimes be a bit scary. That's why it's important, though, to look at our readings for this Sunday. How does Jesus describe himself as king? Well, he describes himself as being hungry and thirsty, naked and ill and in prison. He identifies himself with those who are poor and most vulnerable in our world. It shows that he wants to be a merciful king, looking out for all those who are being mistreated or abused. Who does he consider to be his loyal subjects? Well, they're the ones who give food to the hungry, drink to the thirsty, clothe the naked, to visit and care for those who are ill or sick or in prison. And so this goal of this king is not to oppress us with his power, but to free us from the grasp of evil and of sin. That's why we have nothing to fear with Jesus as king. We should want him to take control, to be the Lord of our life, to lead us, to guide us where he wants us to be. Because the truth is, the irony is, the more that we give over control to Jesus and allow him to lead us in our life, the happier we become and the freer we become. I know that from my own personal experience. It might surprise some of you, but I was not hatched from an egg. Didn't come out a full-grown priest. I grew up, I had very different plans for my life. I had other career minds, other ambitions. In college, I dated the same girl for 4 years. Marriage was very much a part of my plan, what I wanted. But while I was dating her, I started to feel this tug, this call towards priesthood. It was like, Jesus, no! Go away! That is a horrible idea. That is not my plan. I do not want that. You need to go bother somebody else. I know what I want. I know what I'm going after. Leave me alone. But the more that I kept pushing Jesus away and kept pursuing what I wanted, I discovered more and more just the less happy I became. And then about 2 years after I graduated college, and after we had broken up, I was on a retreat. And on this retreat, a priest, during one of his talks, anchored his talk around this passage from the book of the prophet Jeremiah. It's this beautiful line where God speaks to Jeremiah and says, Jeremiah, before I formed you in your mother's womb, I knew you. I love that verse. It immediately spoke to my heart. It was the first time I'd ever heard it. But the truth of it just rang in my heart. Before I formed you in your mother's womb, I knew you. Such beauty, such intimacy, that I am fully known by God. The retreat master went on to say, if that's true, if God made you, if he's the one that formed you in your mother's womb and made you, then he made you for a purpose. I had never thought about that before. If God is the one who made you, then he made you for a purpose. And your happiness in life resides in discovering what that purpose is for your life and living it out. And that really struck me. And so I took that to prayer over the next few weeks, maybe next couple of months. The more I prayed around, the more I thought that was true. If God made me, then yeah, he made me for a purpose. That makes sense. And so I had to acknowledge, well, this tug towards priesthood I kept feeling, well, if that's really from him, and not just some figment of my imagination, well, then maybe I need to listen to that. Maybe I at least have to give him a chance to see if that's true. Is that who he made me to be? And so I started to open myself up to discerning this, to open myself up to the will of God for my life. Well, the rest, as they say, is history. Because the more that I kept opening myself up to God's will for my life, the happier I started to become. The more I let go of the things that I thought I wanted, the freer I became, because I wasn't meant for those things. That's not who God created me to be. This is who I am. So I hope it comes across so well that I love being a priest. I love it. I find so much joy in this life because this is who God created me to be. This is the happiest I've been, the freest I've felt. Especially these last 4 years as being pastor. I have loved this. There's nothing more freeing, more exciting to know you're doing exactly what you're supposed to be doing. You're at where exactly you're supposed to be. And so I encourage you, my brothers and sisters, to pray around that yourself. To recognize that God has created each of you for a beautiful purpose. And to embrace this feast day. Let Christ be your King. Let him lead you. Let him guide you. Let him show you what that purpose is, what he's calling you to do right now in your life. Stop trying to be your own master and control your story. Allow Christ to be your King. Allow yourself to be his disciple, his servant, to follow wherever he leads you, to do whatever he tells you. Because I promise you, following Christ your King is where your deepest and most ultimate happiness lies in this life. Let him lead you because he knows you and loves you more than you can ever imagine.